Today, we're talking about a man who lived by the gun and was defined by his silence. His name was Giuseppe Marchese, and he was a ruthless hitman for the Sicilian Mafia's most powerful clan. This was a man who took more than 20 lives, but you know what? His most shocking act wasn't a murder, it was breaking that sacred code of omertà. He talked. And that's really the big question here, isn't it? In a world where silence is literally the most valuable thing you have, what on earth could push a hardened killer to betray everything he's ever known? Well, the answer, it's a story of incredible cruelty and just ice-cold, calculated betrayal. All right, so let's start with the moment that wall of silence just came crashing down. We're in the fall of 1992, and Marchese is already locked up, facing multiple life sentences. And from inside that prison, he was about to drop an absolute bombshell that would rock the Cosa Nostra to its very core. Now, think about this for a second. This was a hitman for the Corleones, the clan that had just brutally won the Second Mafia War and was ruling Sicily with an iron fist. And he decides to cooperate with the state. This wasn't just any informant. This was an insider from the very, very top of the criminal food chain. He became what the Italians call a pentito. And look, this word pentito, it means so much more than just informant. It literally translates to the repentant. It's a formal break, a public decision to turn state's witness. And for the mafia, there is no greater sin. It's an automatic death sentence, not just for you, but maybe for your entire family. So you have to ask, why would Marchese take such a catastrophic risk? Well, the answer all comes down to one man, Salvatore Riina, the boss of bosses. See, Marchese wasn't having some moral awakening here. He felt completely betrayed. He said his own boss, Riina, had used him like a pawn in a game and then just threw him away. To really understand that feeling, that sense of being completely discarded, we've got to rewind 3 years to a perfect diabolical trap. And what Riina did here? It was an absolute masterclass in mafia manipulation. A brilliant, evil plan designed by the boss to solve 2 problems with one single, brutal act. Okay, just listen to the Machiavellian genius of this plan. It's staggering. Riina gives the Marchese brothers an order. Go kill this rival boss, Vincenzo Puccio. Simple enough, right? But on the exact same day, before they can even get there, Riina sends another hit team to kill Puccio first. So the Marchese brothers show up, they carry out their orders, and they attack a man who is already dead. And right on cue, the police show up and arrest them, literally red-handed, over a corpse they didn't even kill. And you have to understand, none of this was an accident. The trap was sprung perfectly. The Marchese brothers were completely cornered. They couldn't defend themselves by saying the hit was sanctioned by the bosses because technically they hadn't actually killed the guy. So in one move, Riina gets rid of a rival, Puccio, and he neutralizes his own powerful soldiers, the Marchese brothers. From his prison cell, Giuseppe Marchese finally understood. To his boss, he was disposable. So what happens when a man with nothing left to lose decides to talk? Well, the secrets he holds can bring down an entire empire. And Marchese's betrayal, it unleashed a torrent of information that just lifted the lid off the inner workings of the Corleonesi clan. Before we even get into what he revealed, let's just remember who was saying it. Marchese admitted to taking part in more than 20 murders. This wasn't some low-level associate trying to get a deal. This was a seasoned killer, a man who had personally done the clan's bloodiest work for years. His words carried enormous weight. And the damage he did, it was immense. He gave investigators first-hand accounts of the assassinations of major bosses that kicked off the entire Second Mafia War. He gave them an insider's roadmap to how the Corleonesi crushed their rivals. He even gave up the details on the murder of Pino Greco, who was one of Riina's own favorite hitmen. Marchese basically handed prosecutors the secret history, the entire playbook, of the most powerful criminal syndicate in Italy. And that's what made this so huge. See, when mafiosi from the losing families become informants, you can kind of see it as a desperate act of survival. But when a key player from the winning team flips, whoa, that signals a deep, deep rot within the organization itself. It proved that even at the height of his power, Riina's own treachery was creating enemies inside his own crew. But this story, it doesn't end with court cases and prison sentences. The consequences of this life of violence and betrayal, they take one last deeply tragic turn, rippling out to touch the people closest to Marchese. Because at the end of the day, this is also a family story. Marchese was married to a woman named Vincenzina, and she was the sister of another high-ranking Corleonesi mafioso, Leoluca Gagarella. So just imagine her position. She was completely trapped, stuck between her husband, the pentito, and her brother, the loyal mafioso. Her life became this impossible contradiction. Her world just collapsed under this unimaginable pressure. She was already suffering from depression, and it got so much worse after a series of just devastating miscarriages. And then came the ultimate blow. Her own brother, Leoluca, the loyal mafioso, he also became a pentito. Her husband and her brother had both committed the ultimate sin. On May 12, 1995, Vincenzina took her own life, a final, tragic victim of a war waged by men who preached honor but lived by betrayal. Which really leaves us with this one final thought. The mafia is supposedly built on this sacred oath of loyalty. But Giuseppe Marchese's story shows us a world where that loyalty only flows one way, up. He was loyal, right up until the moment his boss decided he was more useful rotting in a prison cell. So it forces you to ask, in a world of disposable soldiers and treacherous kings, what is loyalty really worth?